to Colleagues Getting Coffee. My name is Annelies James, and today I am joined by Joanne Lockwood.
Hi, Anne.
Hello.
How are you doing? Yeah.
So Jo works for See Change Happen, but
right.
See Change Happen stands for something, doesn't it?
Yeah, C stands for Smile, Engage and Educate.
Okay.
It's how I like to sort of treat the world. You know, I go out into the world with a smile and get into a conversation and then hopefully educate people.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more about your business, what it does, what it focuses on?
Yeah, it's a diversity and inclusion practice, and I specialise in transgender awareness to businesses and organisations in the UK, Europe and elsewhere. I do a lot of keynote speaking at conferences, seminars, workshops. I do some training. I also work with organisations to help with policy processes and aid them creating a transition at work policy or aid them helping to provide better support in their organisation for transgender employees.
How far behind are you finding that companies are with this? Do you find that you have to do quite a lot of legwork, or is it getting better the more you work with companies?
I'd say a lot of the work I do is very receptive. People are looking to engage quite quickly. They have a perceived need. I think if you look in the press, the media, in the world, transgender individuals are becoming underrepresented. People know that, and people actually see that we are one of the new characteristics that lacks representation. We've kind of talk about disability, we talk about gender, we talk about a lot of things, but trans is still getting a rough deal. And so I think there's a lot of publicity and a lot of awareness out there, and organisations employ trans people. They've just started to realise it. And I think because there's so much awareness in the media, more and more people are becoming empowered to take that step to transition, whether it's from female to male or male to female or even non-binary.
All these terminologies, all these labels that we've previously had quite fixed in society is all just becoming much more fluid.
Yeah, it is.
And it's actually quite lovely, but there's still a way to go, don't you think?
In society, gender is becoming more and more blurred. You know, many women, many men are rejecting this idea of ultra masculinity or ultra femininity. And people are quite happy on that sort of, I'm just happy being me in the spectrum somewhere. And that's reflecting also in trans people, where we're trying to aspire to this idealistic version of what it's like to be a woman or what it's like to be a man. And actually society's going the other way. So being non-binary, or where gender is less important or gender's not important to who you are as a person, is becoming a more comfortable place to be. And it's just people maybe who are hung up on the Victorian values that struggle with this. How do I talk to you if I can't put you in a box? And
actually it's also a generational issue, isn't it? Because, you know,
to some extent, yes. But I would never like to say with any sort of labelling that it's older people that have the problem. I think it is how you're socialised, your environment, and how you've been brought up. Because I've met some people of all generations who have been wonderfully accepting, completely get it, completely open-minded. And I've met people of all generations who are exactly the opposite. So I think it just depends on who you know and your family and your job and what you do for a living.
I think we live in a community of difference, and I think particularly in the business community, being different is actually a real USP, and especially when it's linked to being yourself. And I actually really value that as a thing that's coming out and emerging in small businesses, particularly being who you are and putting your authentic stamp on it. What a lovely
it's a great thing to be. Everybody wants to just be one person and not have all these personas. In reality is we are all diverse. Diversity is a reality. Everybody is a unique individual from the moment we're conceived. The challenge is inclusion. The challenge is about feeling belonging. The challenge organisations have is when they've got lots of different sorts and different characteristics of people, how do we get those people to work together? That's where inclusion comes. That's where it takes great management, transformational leadership, rather than just traditional transactional boss, supervisor, manager type hierarchy. We need to look at how we engage with employees. Because if we're not listening to people, they're not going to get engaged. It's trying to really have that culture and ethos. It has to be a core value of the business. It can't just be, oh, we want to be more inclusive. It has to be, we are inclusive, from the CEO, from the senior management team, all the way through the business. And a lot of companies are focusing on that employee experience, their corporate brand, because you have to live and breathe that in not just internally, but externally you have to ooze that as your culture, because people will smell through that. They'll see you're just chucking money at Pride. They'll see you're just chucking money at Black History Month. But you've got to really believe it. What do your employees say about you? And that's really where the change has got to happen.
In terms of kind of on the minutiae level then, so say someone is employed, so someone who is different, say, on a day-to-day level, how can people not put their foot in it? What can they do to support potentially trans or...
What I find is one of the biggest barriers is fear of getting it wrong.
Yeah.
There's anxiety of, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I make a mistake? What if I'm not sure how to talk to that person?
Yeah.
And then people, because they've got that fear, they'll tend to disengage. They'll tend to walk away, or their body language will give away that they're not comfortable. The first step I would always say is educate yourself. We all carry Google in our pockets on our phone. If we don't know something, there are plenty of YouTube videos, there are plenty of places you can go to find out. Or call me, obviously. You can call me and I can come in and do some talks.
Hotline, I love it.
Hotline, yeah. seechangehappen.co.uk. So yeah, we can do that. But I think education first. Be open-minded. Okay, not everybody's the same. I don't get it. We don't have to get it. You just have to get that I get it. I accept, you accept it. Being open to differences and having a conversation. If you go up to me and say, look, Joe, hi, how are you? Let's have a chat, have a coffee. Do you fancy meeting for coffee? I'd love to find out more about you. And I go, okay, fine.
So you're welcoming curiosity.
I personally do, but you can't treat every person as a library book. You can't treat every person as your encyclopedia. So you have to take some responsibility for self-education. I suppose I'm in a position where I do this for a living, so I expect to be educating people. But you can't just go up to a pub and see someone who's different and say, can you tell me what it's like to be black? Can you tell me what it's like to be disabled? It doesn't work. In the same way, you wouldn't say, what's it like to be a woman? You wouldn't say, what's it like to be trans? What's it like to be a trans man? What's it like to be this? So we're no different to anybody. You don't want to be interrogated when you're going for a coffee. But there are ways and means of being friendly, not disengaging. And often if you chat like this, you'll ask me something and I'll share. And I'll share some more. And then you can ask me some more questions. Because we're now talking in the conversation, you'll tell me stuff about you, I'll tell you stuff about me. And it doesn't feel like I'm being interrogated. It just feels like we're having a conversation.
Well, because it's people.
It's people stuff,
And that's what we do.
Why wouldn't I want to tell you what makes me happy and what makes me sad? And that's really what I want to do. This makes me happy, this makes me sad. What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What did you do last night? What did you watch on telly? What did I watch on telly?
So you've had a really interesting entrepreneurial journey. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, I started in IT probably back in my early 20s, and I worked for a bank, Coutts Bank, in the city. I used to fly all around the world installing systems for them and living a banker's lifestyle. No, it was hard work. We used to work sort of good 14-hour days, putting systems in Hong Kong, Singapore, and all over the west coast of America. And my accountant at the time said to me, well, why don't you start a business? So back in '98, I set up on my own as a freelance IT provider, supporting businesses in the Portsmouth area, installing systems. And I grew that business over the course of 4 or 5 years. So I think I peaked 3 million turnover with about 20 odd staff.
That's really good.
I had some really big contracts back in those days. And then at the aftermath of 9/11, I ended up with this rather large cable TV company where all its US investors pulled out after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And they went bust, and I ended up going bust because of it. So I started again and merged my business then with a couple of old school friends or old work colleagues, and we grew that about 1.2 to 1.3 million last year or the year before, with about 20 staff again, and sold my shares in it last January, in 2017. They offered to buy me out. It was good for me. I decided that I was getting bored with IT. I've been doing it for 25 years. I'll constantly be on the end of the phone, and someone saying, well, my PC doesn't work. It's
like turn it off and on again.
Yeah, my backup doesn't work. And, no one ever phoned me up and said, oh, wow, it's wonderful to say thank you. So I think I just got tired of it. I was past my sell by date. I was going a bit mouldy. And my whole gender identity was getting to me. I was not functioning correctly. I was becoming a real grumpy arse, basically, and I just needed to do something. So when they offered to buy me out, it was kind of the last chain that released me from my shackles. And I sold up at the end, as I say, end of January, February last year, and I just decided what am I going to do now. I had no real plan other than I wanted to promote trans awareness. I didn't know if I was doing that as a business, as a vocation, as a charity. But I took a couple of months where, if I'm really honest, I couldn't get out of bed. I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I was certainly very down, very, very deeply down, confused. My transition, I decided to transition at the same point, and I had some complex family issues with acceptance, with my wife, my 2 children. I think one day I was talking to a friend or talking to somebody, and I just suddenly realised, well, actually, if I'm an entrepreneur, if I'm a business person, what do business people do? Well, they have a business plan.
Yes.
So I thought, well, what do? I need to get out there and sell my business. I can't just sit in bed and do this. So I just started networking. I literally just got out my phone, went on Eventbrite, and just found all the free networking events I could find, and all the other things that were free locally, marketing seminars and all this sort of stuff. So I just started going to these things as Joe. To see if I could do it as me, and see if anyone was going to laugh at me and or kick me out and burn me as a witch. But also just to get myself talking about my business, because you've got to start talking about it, you've got to start getting out there. And then I got involved with NatWest on their Entrepreneurial Spark program.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I turned up. I didn't actually know what it was for. I just went on Eventbrite and saw it was free.
Yeah.
And there was a buffet. So I thought, okay, it's good to turn up and see what's going on.
I always go to things for a buffet. And if there's Prosecco, even better.
So I just turned up at Portsmouth Uni. And this big stadium, in this big auditorium, and NatWest were talking about it, and it's like, oh wow, that's quite interesting. Oh, it's free, okay, and you just got to apply. Yeah, okay. So I filled all the forms in, got accepted, and that was kind of the thing that really kick-started me. It gave me a mindset. It helped me formulate my business plan, helped me think about my viability, what I was going to be doing, and it gave me some real structure. Even though I've run businesses before, actually running it on my own, literally on my own, with no previous expertise, no previous experience. So the imposter syndrome was kicking in big time. It's can I do this? Can I do this? And suddenly I thought, yeah, I can, and I just started doing it.
So obviously a talented speaker, lots of great feedback, happy days. What's your tip then? I need this. I need you to tell me how to be a good speaker.
Well, this came. In my past life, I was the national president of a men's club called Round Table.
Oh, okay.
Which involved me travelling the country and Europe and some of the world, speaking at meetings, chairing meetings, speaking at meetings, after dinner speaking. So I got quite used to doing that. I wouldn't say I was brilliant at it, but I was obviously okay. So when I came to do this, I thought, well, I don't know. So I joined an organisation called Toastmasters in Fareham. And they're all over the world, all over the UK and all over the world. And they give you a very structured approach to planning speeches.
Okay.
I'm not saying they're necessarily relevant for professional speakers, but it gives you that confidence. And I didn't know whether I could stand on stage as a woman in a dress with my voice and talk, and everyone's going to take me seriously. So I had all these really things going on in my head about was I good enough as a woman, let alone good enough as a speaker, and my content.
You've got like another layer of things to worry about for sure,
And then you speak. You go out and you speak a lot. You practice. But, like anything, to be a master of something, you have to do 10,000, 100,000 hours to become a master of a technique. So if you only speak once a year, you're never going to master it. You've got to try and speak a lot. And your material, you don't want to be sitting there flicking through your notes or reading off the slides. So you've got to be able to deliver this content with no notes and no slides, and be interesting and hold the audience and have people come up to you afterwards and go, wow, that was amazing, I learned so much from it.
Wow. So how do you do that though? How do you learn it all? How do you just practice?
Well, a lot of it comes from within. So I'm not talking about something that I've had to learn. Well, I suppose I have learned it, but it's become so innate within me that it becomes part of my message. So I can adapt. No two talks are identical. I feed off the audience sometimes, where someone smiles at me and I'm saying something, and that'll lead me into a different route. I don't know. Maybe I'm just feeling differently, and I look out and think, I want to tell you this story.
It's actually storytelling.
It's
storytelling as well, because
anecdotes.
I find with this channel particularly, people like to find the story out about people.
People don't want stats. If you look at the stats on stats, people only remember 10 to 20% of what they hear in terms of statistics. But everybody always remembers how they feel.
Yeah, it's true.
So you're trying to catch people here. And I was going onto the stage thinking, I'm going to give you all of me. If I come off not exhausted, I haven't done enough, I need to give you everything I've got. And I want to come off and I want you to think, wow, that was so inspirational. Wow, that was so emotional. And wow, I get that.
Amazing.
That's the kind of reaction I'm looking for. And then I know I've done a good job.
Okay, so obviously we've talked a little bit about trans and the other side of it, but as an advocate of trans what would be maybe your top 3 tips then for trans people? Is there anything that you'd share?
So if transitioning is necessary for you and you have to, for you, believe you can, but also be realistic that not everybody around you will support you.
Yeah.
And that's I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's just reality.
A fact,
It's a big mindset for those around you, certainly family and friends, to go from one person in their eyes to another person. You know, people lose their sons, they lose their daughters. They don't necessarily want to gain a daughter and gain a son. They were quite happy and it is. And transitioning starts off being a very selfish thing. You know, you do it for you don't do it for anybody else. And I often describe it as like you put a pebble in a pool, in a pond, and then the ripples are your transition. You make the decision. You've been thinking about this for most of your life. And you just literally drop that pebble in the pond, and those ripples affect everybody as they go out. So the people closest to you, your wife, partner, husband, your parents, your children, all those people are then the people who have to transition. They have to get used to seeing the different you. And you have to learn to let go of yourself, because I try to keep saying to people that I'm still the same person on the inside. And that was almost disrespectful, because really whilst I was the same person on the inside, I was a different person on the outside. And why would I want to transition to be treated the same as I was before? That's kind of, I suddenly realised that I want people to treat me differently. I want to be different. I want to be seen as the person on the inside, but nobody ever saw that before. So I had to recognise the fact that I had to now share who I was on the inside, and people had to get to like me again. You couldn't trade off your old personality, because I don't want to be treated as the big fat hairy bloke who used to go down the pub, which is kind of what I was. I don't want to be that person. I wasn't that person. But it's especially hard for my wife. She's had to get used to a different person. She didn't ask to have her sexual identity questioned because I've transitioned as a female.
That's a really interesting
She's gone from being a straight woman to being, is she a lesbian? Is she married to a wife? Is she married to a husband? So now she's had to deal with all of those things in her head about a change of who she is. And I've caused it. It was my decision. I had the choice to make. She is now having to live with my choice, which is why I can't sit here and say, well, it's not fair, because it's not fair to her either. And I think so. When we talk about the 3 things, be aware that it's not all about you, it is about other people. And if you treat everybody without feeling that empathy, then it's very difficult for them to throw empathy back. I think you have to meet empathy with empathy. And
I think you just have to, everyone has to be open to it, everyone has to be curious about it, talk about it. And it's kind of like we were talking about, change in organisations was all about communication and inclusivity, and how is that? By communicating and asking questions in a positive way. I
think the 3rd thing I would say is kind of have a bit of a plan. It's okay to have a plan that is, I want to figure things out, I want to take my time. It's okay to do that, but know you're doing it. Sometimes it's necessary to rip the sticky plaster off quickly and just make it happen. Sometimes you can let things rumble and evolve. But I think it's necessary for your own sense of self to know where you're going, and to move into your new life in a way that is quite quick and swift, whatever that may be, for your own self. I think I've certainly found that by transitioning relatively quickly, I didn't suffer some of the mental anguish I could have felt by rejection. I literally just went headlong into it. And again, that's me. I'm not saying
people make a choice one way or another, and then that choice is made.
I know. Then.
You don't have to worry about someone sort of teetering around, and then they're like, oh, actually, no.
People do like, and we live in a binary world, people like you to make your mind up. And I'm not saying this is right. I mean, there are plenty of people who are non-binary or gender fluid that would say, no, I don't want to do that, which is fine. But for me, if you're not careful, it's trying to hit a moving target. Well, people will stand around me going, well, when you've made your mind up, we'll figure it out. And I was sort of so worried about keeping everybody happy, that all I ended up doing is making everybody unhappy, including myself. So I thought, well, you've got to try and create some stability. So make yourself happy, get your work happy, because if you've got stability at work, you've got stability of income, you've at least got a safe place. Then tackle people and build up your network again. And I think when everything's fluid, you're just rotating around and you've got no sense of up or down. So you just got to try and create stability, whatever that is, and then do it. And don't live in this bubble of false reality, if you like. You try and create a real life for yourself.
Amazing. So how can people find out more about you?
Well, I'm on the usual channels. Website is cchangehappen.co.uk, SEE, Change Happen. Twitter as Joe_Lockwood 1965.
Okay.
I know I don't look that old. From both those, you'll find my mobile number, my email address. Twitter, Instagram,
amazing,
LinkedIn, so all of the usual places. But if you Google my name, Joanne Lockwood, or tap me into LinkedIn, you'll find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me, Joe. It's been absolutely incredible.
It's cool. No, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.